No, they had to cancel it for just for Sunday. Just for Sunday. No, it's supposed to rain like a half an inch overnight. We're poor all day, all day. Nah, all day Saturday, and the bike show. You'll hear about it. I'll have it on the show in a minute. Yeah. Glen's back on too as a sponsor. Glen Industries. They made these great little filters. Yeah. You see, I got a nice little thing coming up later on in the show.
Joe, I think we're a night late, but it looks like there's some people watching.
Good evening, everyone. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A. I'm your host, Joe Abadi. Thank you for joining me. Thank you, Jordan Woodwork, for helping me put the show together, as well as Susie and Chelsea. And thank you, the viewers at home, for joining us tonight. I'm sorry we're a day late, but we've got a great show put together for you, and we're going to get right down to the starting line. I'll tell you a little bit more about what's going on. The starting line is, of course, brought to you by Motion Pro. For your tools, cables, and controls, visit Motion Pro online at motionpro.com. Breaking news out of Marysville. The CZ races this weekend. It was supposed to be for 3 days. The 23rd, 24th, and 25th. Sunday has been canceled. Canceled due to rain. They're expecting some serious rain to come down over a half inch. All of Sunday's events were canceled. So the bike show has been moved up to Friday, and all the racing will take place on Saturday. All the vintage, all the post-vintage, everything's going to be taking place on Saturday. Go over to their Facebook page. The original CZ World Championship Committee has decided to cancel the race for Sunday, but it's still happening on Friday and Saturday. In the next time try this segment tonight, I'm going to be talking to you a little bit about how to remove from graphics from a clear-coated tank, an aluminum tank, and how to prep it if you're going to polish it. In the Moto Showcase tonight in 1976, Bultaco, sent in by Phil Agapio. I'm looking forward to bringing you that. Here's the problem. How do you match that KX green to a new set of plastic? We'll be talking to you a little bit about that a little bit later on in the show. OSA recently sold on eBay. What's it worth? You're going to have a chance to guess. I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it. In the expansion chamber, Robert Oscar Pomeroy has sent in another great video. We'll be showing you that a little bit later on in the show. Don't forget, if you're watching the show, share it. Whether you're on Facebook or you're on YouTube, please share the show with your friends. Tell them to come down and watch Vintage Motocross Q&A. And don't forget, if you're sharing it on YouTube, comment AMSOIL. We'll have a random share giveaway a little bit later on in the show. Don't forget, if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do so. When you do, you'll get a little alert just like this, tells you when we're live on the air. Plus, you can see all the previous shows and all the interviews we've done for Vintage Motocross Radio. How are the experts, the pros watching Vintage Motocross Radio? They're sitting back watching on their big screen TV while they comment from their phone. It's a great way to watch the show. You can enjoy it on your big screen TV at home in HD. That's how the pros are doing it. We are still looking for bikes for the Moto Showcase. We feature one every week. We have for all the shows we've ever done. We also appreciate your questions and comments. One of my favorite parts of the show is, of course, answering the questions that you send in to me every week. And if you have some comments, some ideas for the show, maybe some new segments, don't be shy. I'm interested in hearing what you've got to say, and we would love to feature it here on the show. But keep those Moto Showcase bikes coming in. Thank you, Motion Pro, Vinco, Racer X, Glen Products, Full Circle Racing, Sunrise Vapor Blasting, Preston Petty Products, Northwest Mako CZ, and of course, Amsoil for being sponsors of our show. We greatly appreciate your support.
The Next Time Try This segment is brought to you by Vinco. Keep the ride going. Today, I want to talk to you about aluminum tanks, in particularly an aluminum tank like this. It could be a TT500 tank, a Yamaha XT500 tank, any tank that could be aluminum that may have a graphic on the side. Could be your BSA tanks, could be your Triumph tanks. What am I going to be telling you about? Sometimes you just have a graphic on the side of the tank and it's not clear-coated. In this case, it is clear-coated. This tank in particular does have some scratches on it, which I'm going to have to sand anyway. So I'm going to show you how I go about taking off that graphic, breaking the clear in order to get it all sanded, really nice and smooth so you get a nice looking tank like this in the end. Let's get started. To begin with, I'm going to take some 180 grit sandpaper like this, and I'm going to begin to remove the graphic that's here. Yes, I could use paint stripper and strip the whole side of the tank and probably remove the graphic too. In fact, I'm certain I could, but I do have some nicks and scratches in here that I want to get out. It is going to take sanding to remove those. So I'm going to take a little bit more time to do it with the sandpaper. Also, if you have a tank at home that you wanted to sand that does not have clear coat on it, that does not have graphics on it, you'd be doing it the same way. I'm going to be doing it right here. So let's get started on that. Purpose of it, of course, is to break the clear. I can't get down through the sticker to remove it unless I get the clear coat removed. I've also put this tape along here just to kind of protect the paint. I wanted to show you how to do that. The paint on this tank is going to be repainted, but maybe the tank is, or your tank at home, the paint is good and you want to try and save that line. That's how you would do it. I'm concentrating on this area right here right now just so I could show you exactly where the clear has now broken through. I now have a little bit more access to the graphic and I'll be able to peel it off in just a minute. And remember, this is only if you have clear over a graphic, not if you have a graphic that you can obviously peel off of a tank without any sanding. You'll be sanding afterward if you have scratches and gouges that you're trying to get out. Now that I've got the sticker out of the way, well, you can see where the clear was all around it. And there were some nicks around that little sticker too. So I was able to sand out some of those. Next step I want to do is go along this edge, and if you have paint on your tank, as I mentioned that before, you might want to mask it off with some pinstriping masking tape like this in order to not damage your paint. You're going to get as close as you can. There is a real good possibility that you're going to break through that masking tape and you are going to damage your stripe a little bit. Be prepared that you might have to replace the stripe as well. Okay, we're going to get back to sanding in just a minute, but there was something I wanted to bring to your attention. In an area like this, where you have, of course, the weld on the bottom of the tank, and then it gets close in here along that seam, along that weld, it can be difficult to get your finger in there with sandpaper and get it all sanded out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a little paint stripper like this, let it work on the clear coat for a moment, then I'm going to remove it with some fine steel wool. The purpose of the steel wool is so I don't really change the integrity of the weld. The weld will look the same. If I get on that weld with a piece of sandpaper, it's going to smooth it all out, and it's not going to look factory original, which is the way I want it to look. So let's get started with a little paint stripper. I like to use a little toothbrush like this, an old toothbrush, not my new toothbrush, of course, and let that stripper get to work in there a little. Okay, now that I've got the sticker removed, all the clear removed using 180 grit paper, and I've got my edge all cleaned up. I used a little paint stripper underneath there, as I showed you a little bit earlier. I'm going to follow up now with some 220 and then some 320, very fine paper, like you see right here, P-rated paper, and we'll keep going. So let's go on with the 220 right now. or 240 actually. And keep my hand nice and flat on the side of the tank as I sand it. Also, at this point, if a brushed finish was what you wanted, you could go with the 240, as I mentioned, not 220, 240, and then go to the 320, and you'd have a brushed finish. Here it is after sanding it down with the 320. It's got a beautiful finish on it, a brushed finish you'd find on most tanks. Looks really nice. We're going to go a little bit further on this. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to use some wet or dry 400 grit. Then I'm going to go to 600 grit as well. I'll have it wrapped around a little pad like this. It's like a sponge, but a little bit firmer. And I'll be able to sand the side of that tank. I like to use a little bit of a sponge thing like this, a little bit softer, because we have a contour to the tank. So let's just get started on that. And it covers a good portion of the tank too. Be sure to dip that paper in your water frequently. And yes, you're going to get the bottom too, just the way I'm doing it here. Make sure you get that. I'm going to continue on with this 400 grit paper for a couple of minutes here. Then I'm going to go on to the 600. Then I'm going to talk to you about polishing. Okay, we've got the tank all sanded down with 600 grit wet or dry sandpaper. If you're a professional polisher, you've known that some of the steps that I've taken here could be skipped as a professional polisher, but the advice I give here on the show many times is for the guy at home who wants to do it himself, who may not have the professional tools that you have. So that's sort of the purpose of this video. As I was saying, we went down to 600, and now we want to get this side to look like this side. How are we going to do that? We're going to take it out on the polishing wheel, and I'm going to give you a little brief tutorial on how to do that. Of course, before you polish, you got to remember, make sure you have safety glasses like I'm wearing right here, a good pair of gloves, and something else that everyone has in their artillery these days, of course, a good dust mask. Put it out to the polishing machine, and I'm going to give you a little idea of how we get that done. So whether your tank has graphics on it or not, and it's just aluminum, and you want to get it all sanded down nice and smooth before you polish, that's the way you do it. I want to thank Vinco for being a sponsor of this segment. Vinco, keep that ride going.
In the Moto Showcase tonight, which is sponsored by Preston Petty Products, we take a look at a 1976 Bultaco MK9250 that was sent in to us by Phil Agapio. Jordan can go through the slides, and I'll read you about what Phil said to us. Hello, Joe. Here is my 76 MK9250. I purchased this from my friend Marty Malarker. He did a really nice race restoration on the bike. It has period correct Answer product swing arm on it, and I rode it a couple of times, and I realized that I do love the bike, but I wanted to race a 370. So this little beauty is going to sit in my collection. A very worthy addition, I would say. As per usual, thanks so much for your support for the vintage motocross community. Thanks again, Phil Agapio. Well, thank you, Phil, for sending in this bike. I don't believe I've ever seen an Answer product swing arm on a Bultaco. That's one of the first ones I've seen. Marty did a great job on it, and you are now the proud owner. So, Phil, if you're watching, please send me your address. I'll get you a nice little gift, compliments of Preston Petty Products. And speaking of Preston Petty Products, have you visited them online lately? Have you looked at their things on Facebook and some of the other social media sites, whether it's number plates, lights, fenders, plastic kits, grips, and more? Preston Petty, the legend continues. Visit them online. Thank you, Paul Standard, for all you do for us here at the show. And another great thing I like about your website is this little drawing or this little layout you have of the sizes of the fender. Whether you have a bike that has an 18-inch front wheel or a 21-inch front wheel, you want to know the sizes of that fender. What's the arc like? How wide is it? What about the mounting plate on top? Paul Standard's got a really great little layout right here. It tells you all about the sizes. And I've recently noticed also that they're making replicas of their Mutter fenders again. The Mutter. They make them for the front and the rear. It doesn't have the integral mounting plate like that. So it's for your regular mounting brackets that you might have on some of your older bikes. And Paul Standard, Preston Petty, still going strong. Here's the problem, brought to you by Motion Pro. Whether it's for your specialized tools, cables, or your controls, please visit motionpro.com online. Jordan, what's the first question? Butch Sandgrath, Joe, 74 Honda CR 125 and 250 rims are aluminum, but do they have anodizing on them? Some appear to be different shades between 73 and 75. Yeah, Butch, they absolutely do have anodizing on them, clear anodizing. Some people call it silver. It's clear. As it builds up, it turns more silver. This is the same rim right here in this picture of both these pictures are of the same rim, rims that I had refinished. What you have to keep in mind is how someone polishes the aluminum is going to make a little bit of a difference of how the aluminum or how the shine comes through. Whatever is underneath that anodizing is going to be seen coming through that anodizing. It's not like chrome. It doesn't cover the aluminum. You actually see what's going on through it. So depending on how you polish that rim is how you're going to see what is under the anodizing. I've even seen instances where I purchased new rims, and they were gold. In fact, they were for a Nobby Shop International bike I was doing. And when I got both rims, they were new, and they were a different shade of aluminum, although they were both brand new. It depends on the grade of aluminum sometimes, when the rim was made, when it was anodized, how the polishing went before the anodizing. Now, you mentioned something about rims look a different shade from the 73s to the 75s. I have noticed that, especially on the 250s. The 73s sometimes have like a frosted look to them. I wouldn't say it's textured, but it does look a little more gray than it does silver. It certainly looks a little more on the gray side than it does a shiny finish that many people are very, very familiar with. But yes, they are anodized. You will see different shades from time to time. And if you're having a set refinished, you want to have someone polish them and do an equal job on both the front and the rear before you have them re-anodized. Thanks for the question, Butch. Oscar Gayton, I'm restoring a 79 KX80. I'm concerned with the aftermarket plastic being a shade off with the stock repainted steel tank. What can I do to avoid this two-tone problem? I'll tell you what you can do. Because you are going to be repainting the tank, and here is a brand new one or a brochure, a bike that's from a brochure from 1979, a KX80, and it looks like everything matches in the picture. What you want to do is, of course, get your plastic from Nightmare Racing, and we're going to be talking about Mark Hildebrand in just a moment. But when you get your plastic, don't paint the tank before you get the plastic. Get the new plastic, then take it to an auto body supply place, have it scanned, get a code from that plastic, and then have your tank match the plastic. This way you're going to be guaranteed that everything is going to match. Mark's plastic is exceptionally close to NOS, exceptionally close. In fact, some would say it's just about spot on. I have used it on 79 KX 125s where the tank is plastic, and I've used Mark's fenders and side panels, and they matched very, very well. But my advice to you, get the plastic first, have it scanned, then have your tank painted, and you'll be sure that everything matches. That's what I would do. Speaking of Mark Hildebrand, Mark took a turn for the better just the other day. He has been on a ventilator for over 8 weeks now. He has been battling COVID. His daughter Ashlyn and I have been in contact just about every day, and she tells me that he is now COVID-free and that he was doing a little bit better. As you can see here in the picture, he's smiling a little bit. I did have him on a little FaceTime chat the other day. He gave me the thumbs up. I told him that we were all in his corner. All of us were praying for him, but let's keep Mark in our prayers. He did have a little setback today, something with some white blood cell counts and things like that. But let's keep Mark in our prayers, and he's putting up a gallant effort and continued prayers for Ashlyn and Lynn Hildebrand, very dear friends of mine, personal friends of mine for a very, very long time. Hang in there, Mark. We're all with you. Mike Nielsen, were Vertimati MX bikes competitive at any time? I saw them race once in Broadford, but never after that. They were very, very interesting bikes, and I had an article that I was looking at from Motocross Action Magazine. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it, because maybe some people aren't familiar with the Vertimati. The Vertimati 495 is one of the rarest of all four-stroke bikes really ever made. Alvaro and Guido Vertimati were originally the Husqvarna importers in Italy, but when Cagiva purchased the Swedish brand and moved it to Italy, the brothers switched their allegiance to Husaberg. In the early days of the Vertimati Husaberg alliance, the brothers fielded a high-end 500 Grand Prix racing team that was a contender for the crown. However, as the Vertimati brothers were gearing up for a build of a potpourri of different bikes, some special components were involved. The Husaberg factory outbid them for their star rider, Joel Smets. In the end, Vertimati decided to build their own bike, although it relied heavily on a lot of Husselberg parts, including Husselberg top end. The result was a very rare one-off program with most of the parts built in-house by the Vertimati brothers in their shop in Trujillo, Italy. It was considered one of the greatest four-strokes made at the time, and maybe still today. But a very, very rare bike with some very, very interesting things. If you notice here in the picture, the Kickstarter does swing out like many bikes do, but you actually kicked it forward. Vertimati brothers also had something else, which I don't think was, well, it had happened before, it had happened after. What they had was this inverted cylinder, or the cylinder that tilted toward the back of the bike, much like Yamaha came out with at the exact same time. The carburetor was on the front, it was fuel injected, the exhaust went out the back. Another thing the Vertimati had was a cassette transmission. You were able to get the whole cluster of the transmission out from one side without splitting the cases. Vertimati brothers had a lot of really great ideas. Unfortunately, it didn't work out. Still a phenomenal bike. You do see them from time to time, but that is the story. And if you go over to Motocross Action, and I believe you type in Vertimati 503, Motocross Action, Vertimati 503, if you Google that, you'll learn more about this bike. I'm thinking about bringing a segment into this show in the future as well, kind of a little of where they are now things that talk about bikes like the Vertimati and a few others. So that's it on the Vertimati. Thanks for the question. Sal Scarpa III. Hi, Sal. Good to hear from you, and I hope you're watching the show tonight. A coworker asked me about reducing the length of aftermarket cables that are too long on his bike. What would you suggest? I would suggest that he actually take those cables that are too long, but fit. In other words, let me say this. The cable fits the carburetor, it's tight in the top, everything's fine. It fits the throttle assembly on the other end, there's no play. It's just that the whole harness is too long. I wouldn't suggest if he's not really, if he hasn't really had any experience with cutting cables, and there's a lot of tools you can buy, including the ends, the ferrules, special snips, of course, all the wire. If he doesn't have that, and he doesn't plan on making any cables for the future, take your cables, send them to Motion Pro, and tell them that you want them made this much shorter, whatever the length is. If your cable is 6 inches too long, but the wire is good inside, they're going to shrink everything down 6 inches. You'll have a proper fitting cable for your bike and also the right length. You could buy a kit from Motion Pro. It comes like this. This particular kit right here goes for $165. Kind of a lot of dough if you're only going to be making 1, 2, or 3 cables. So get a hold of the guys at Motion Pro, send them your cable. They can make it shorter, and that's what I would recommend, Sal. Not really getting involved doing that for 1 or 2 cables. Thanks for the question. We are going to take a commercial break. Don't forget to keep sharing the show if you're on Facebook. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget, comment AMSOIL. We're going to have a random share giveaway winner, I think, when we get back.
Hello everyone, Brandon here with Motion Pro, bringing you the Trick new Pro Plug sockets from Motion Pro. The Pro Plug sockets are a very clever design. They're heavy tool steel construction for durability. They feature a slim skeleton design for hard to reach heads and cylinders, and they feature a really trick, innovative retention system. This retention system is mechanical and it's not a rubber grommet, so you're never going to battle between the spark plug and the socket. So the socket is always going to be easy and firm to attach to the spark plug, but also it's going to be easy to remove. So you're not going to have to go fishing in those deep well heads to get that socket out. Now the socket features a couple of different drive components. You can use a 17 mil open end wrench, a 3/8 drive socket, as well as a through axle, right? So you've got a couple of different ways you can use this product. Now we have these available in 3 different sizes, and those 3 different sizes are 16, 18, and 21, available to fit most model motorcycles, V-twin as well as metric. Retail starts at $21.99 up to $22.99, available from your favorite retailer nationwide.
In the What's It Worth segment tonight, which is sponsored by Full Circle Racing, for your lacing and truing needs for both vintage and modern, see my friend Tom McAllister at Full Circle Racing. What's it worth? 1977 OSA GP3. This is a confirmed sale from a friend of mine in Southern California. I'm going to read to you a little bit about the bike. Jordan will go through the slides, and please, in the comment section, Put in what you think this bike sold for. The seller says, I purchased this bike a few years back with the intention of using it as a racer. Unfortunately, I only rode the bike once before and decided to do a cosmetic restoration on it. The previous owner had the engine rebuilt by Alex Snoop, and it runs strong as it should. He also added the Fox air shocks, Simon's forks, completely rebuilt, and the suspension is absolutely phenomenal and works perfectly. All that I have done to the bike was to get the frame and body panels painted. I picked colors for the bodywork in the frame that are similar to what the factory had, but I made it a little closer to something that I would like. At the time, I was in a cosmetic restore for myself with no intentions of ever selling the bike. I also had the necessary parts polished and replated before assembly. The last item that I did was to replace the handlebars, controls, and an NOS throttle assembly. Obviously, the forks and shocks are not OEM, but definitely worth the common upgrade. And they're worth the upgrade. And I have the original suspension as well. The bike is being offered here, runs flawlessly. I've ridden it a few times. It's not a perfect restoration, but just the right amount of patina has been left on the bike. This is a very rare bike, a GP3, a great looking OSA, that's for sure. It's got that suspension, which is very, very expensive these days and getting more and more difficult to find. So what is everyone thinking the bike sold for? And it is a confirmed sale. I know for a fact that the bike was sold. How much? $5,000? $6,000. $7,155. $7,155. The bike was sold on April 4th, 2021. The bike did belong to my friend, Scott Piddington. I spoke to him the other day to confirm the sale because you can't always confirm things when you don't see a feedback on eBay. But Scott Piddington did tell me the bike sold for $71.55. Who was closest without going over? Full Circle Racing, you heard me mention them just a moment ago. They still got that great special going on for powder coating your hubs. They'll clean them, disassemble them, blast, and powder coat them for just $50. A hub for $10 more. They'll do the brake plate as well. Now, if you don't want a gloss black or a matte finish in black for just $20 more, a one-time fee, Tom will make them any color you want. Full Circle Racing. Send up your hubs, get back a brand new set of wheels. Tom's got some great deals going up there. I know another friend of mine, Gordon McCaffer from New York, just bought a set of wheels from Tom McAllister. I've got several sets here, and a lot of people are using Tom McAllister. Thanks for all the help you give us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. You heard me talk about the price of that OSA just a moment ago, $71.55. If you have a bike that you want to buy or sell and you're wondering what the value is, join us at the Vintage Motocross Buyers and Sellers Price Guide page on Facebook. The page is dedicated to discussing the value of bikes. Nobody sells bikes there. Nobody lists bikes there. It's not a want ad. It's not your regular run-of-the-mill Facebook group. It's a very specialized group that all we do is talk about the value of bikes. There's a lot of auction reports in there. In 2 weeks, the Mecum auction is coming up in Las Vegas. We'll have a lot of results from that on that page, I'm sure. I'm going to be out there at that time. Whether or not I get to see some of the bikes go off that I think fit the Vintage Motocross Buyers and Sellers Price Guide page, I don't know. I'm hoping to do that. But in the meantime, if you've got a bike that you want to sell and you want to know the value, or you're looking to purchase a bike and you want to know if the seller has the right price on it, go over to the Vintage Motocross Buyers and Sellers Price Guide page, post a picture, and you'll get some really great responses from some really, really nice guys. It's a fun group. The expansion chamber tonight is brought to you by Sunrise Vapor Blasting. Be sure to visit them on Facebook. They do a great job having refinished some of the stuff for me here in the shop, and more work is coming into Mark Forrester due to the show. The expansion chamber, we've got a nice video tonight brought to us by Robert Oscar Pomeroy. Let's get a look at it.
Hello everyone. Today I want to talk about how to remove a pilot jet from your Mikuni carburetor if it's corroded in there, or sometimes they strip the flats and become very difficult to get out. I happen to have a person sent me a bike to jet and the pilot jet stuck. So what we're going to use to get this out today, we're going to use a double-edge screw extractor. Okay, this one's made in Germany, and here's the part number. It's Rheinstag 470013. It's a number 1, and these are a little bit, because they're double-edged, they're a little bit better, quite a bit better actually, than the standard ones you buy at the auto parts place. So I've written the part number down there, and it's number 1, so it uses a 1/8 drill. But to make sure we're on center, what I did already on that carburetor is drill down with a 3/32 drill bit to get right into that pilot, make sure I'm dead center before I drill. The other thing that's important is we don't want to drill past that thread, because if we drill 1/8 into that carburetor body, we will damage the carburetor body. So we only want to go down to 5 or 6 millimeters, absolute max. So I measured the depth with a pilot in there, which was 14 millimeters. I set my drill to 19, sticking out, that's the extra 5. And to protect my drill from going all the way down there, I took a piece of carburetor vent hose and put it on this end of this drill. So we're going to drill into that pilot jet and then install the extractor. That was as simple as that. And make sure your drill is very sharp and brand new. The first few I drilled, the drill wasn't that sharp. It actually wasn't a good outcome. Okay, now that that's drilled out, we're going to take our little extractor tool and we're going to tap that in very lightly, just so it seats like that. Take your wrench and rotate it out. You can feel it coming out already. It should be loose. And there is, on the end of my extractor, is the threaded piece, and the little nozzle will be right there. And there you have it. That's the easy, quick way to get out those pilot jets that have been caught in the carburetor.
I want to thank Robert Oscar Pomeroy for sending in that great little video. Very well done, Robert. I appreciate it. And if anybody else out there wants to make a video that we can feature in the expansion chamber of some of the tricks of the trade and some of the things that you do in your shop, please contact me. I'd love to have them here on the show. In the product spotlight tonight from Northwest Mako CZ, there's so many things that Alan Brown has on that page at Northwest Mako CZ, and some of them are just absolutely incredibly inexpensive and yet really, really great products to have. 3 of them are, there's this pipe insulator, special for your Makos. He's got some fork stops, and he's got kill switches or kill buttons as well. The great thing I like about Alan Brown and Northwest Mako CZ is the things that he is having made for these bikes are made in the USA. A lot of people value that these days. And right now, any of those products are available for just $10, just 10 bucks. So there's some great little things there that may help you out with your Mako or your CZ. Go over to Northwest Mako CZ, check them out online. We've got a lot of other products there that you're going to like as well. Thank you, Alan Brown, for all you do for us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Glen Industries is back. My friend Elon Glen, you've heard me talk about him before. He's had these amazing filters that are being used more and more by some of the manufacturers even now. They come in different colors. They come in this beautiful aluminum finish. And the great thing about these is, well, you know what? I'm going to read to you a little bit about what Elon Glen sent to me, and then you can make a decision on your own. We produce a wide range of fuel filters for all types of motorcycles, whether on-road or off-road. We have recently launched our latest compact filter, which has proven to be very popular with the off-road brands such as KTM, Kawasaki, Honda, etc. Our compact filter, as well as our mini, super mini, and large filters, are washable and reusable indefinitely. They provide a very high flow for street and racing purposes and filter down to 10 microns, all with a lifetime warranty. This is the last filter for your fuel you're ever going to buy, fellas. It really, really is. Now, here's something else you should keep in mind. If some of you guys out there own a shop or you're looking to get involved in representing a product, Elon's got this going on right now. He's also looking for freelance or independent marketing and sales professionals or major internet suppliers for all of their motorcycle products, including their fuel petcocks, in order to reach more customers here in the United States and reach across the board into Europe, Asia, and North America, of course, Canada and Mexico as well. Just for your information, we already have major customers in Australia, Japan, and the UK, but they're always looking for more people. So if you want, you can get a hold of Glen Industries. Look them up on Facebook, look them up online. This is the last filter you're ever going to buy, and if you want to become a distributor for this great little product, contact Elon Glen. Thank you, Elon. Welcome back to Vintage Motocross Q&A. AMSOIL. Still got a great special going on over my right shoulder here. It usually retails for just $75, or I should say retails for a $75. I don't want to say whopping 75, but it goes for 75 bucks. And there's a special going on right now for just $46.99. Everything in that photo you'll get for $46.99, shipping included. And if you buy it now, you get 25% off everything at AMSOIL for the next 6 months because you are a preferred customer. All you need to do is PayPal them at amsoilplus@aol.com. Include your name, address, email, and phone number, and Russell Waters will get you a great little kit like that. Compliments of AMSOIL, the first in synthetic oil since 1973. We're going to take a commercial break. Don't forget to keep sharing the show, whether you're on Facebook or on YouTube. Comment AMSOIL. When we get back, we've got a random share giveaway winner for sure this time.
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure. And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, only Vinco knows the bikes and parts the way you do. Vinco, keep the ride going.
Keep the ride going at Vinco. Our random share giveaway winner tonight is John Shutt. John Shutt, S-H-U-T-T. John Shutt, if you're still watching the show, inbox me your address, and I'll get you a nice gift compliments of AMSOIL. Jordan, don't move. I've got something I want to discuss with the viewers at home. I brought it out earlier. It wasn't part of the show, but it's a little tip, and I wanted to give it. As most of you know, I do a lot with Elsinore tanks, repairing dents. You know all about that. Now, a lot of times people will buy a gas tank for their bike. They haven't even seen it yet, and they send it to me. Or they're taking a look at, or they received it, and they haven't put it on the bike yet. And I'll ask them, does the tank leak, especially at the rear mount? Now, what happened was I looked at the rear mount on this bike, and I could see that there was some oil back there, some gas, premix. What I would recommend that you do, if you buy a tank and you're not sure, because these tanks are prone to leaking, especially at the rear mount. Put the petcock in, put some water in the tank, just enough to fill it up a little bit. Then sit it on your workbench just like this with all the water sitting at the bottom of the tank at the rear. Keep an eye on it. That's going to tell you if the tank leaks. That helps me a lot before you send me the tank, or if you're sending somebody else the tank, maybe you've sold it or you're having somebody else paint it, you want to make sure the tank doesn't leak first. Now, sometimes you could tell in other areas of the tank where they do leak, but in the back, you can't tell. And it adds a lot of time to the job when I've got to cut out this whole mount to get it in there to have that tank well in. So, for you Elsinore guys, try that. Put some water in the tank, stand it up, see if it leaks at the very back of the tank where they're prone to leak right at the mount. I just had to tell you about that. I was so excited about telling you. What do we got next, Jordan? Just how I see it. A lot of people talk about vintage racing. How long is it going to go on? Guys like myself, sort of getting older, maybe not racing so much anymore. What's it going to do to keep vintage motocross alive? Well, this past weekend was the Boise Inter-Am, and there was some people out there that were riding some bikes like this, and they looked exceptionally fast and had a great time. Now, that number 2 on that YZ is being piloted by Ryan Villapoto. So Ryan was out there this weekend, and he had a friend alongside of him, another recent retiree from Supercross and Motocross, and that other guy was Jake Weimer. So here it is, Jake Weimer, number 7, and Ryan Villapoto, number 2. I've been saying this for a few years now. If we could somehow get maybe some recently retired Supercross, Motocross guys to take more of an interest in vintage motocross itself, the people who were following them throughout their career, that younger generation, maybe that 35 to 40-year-old group, will see that they're still out there having a great time on the older bikes. That will help things grow. That really is the next step, really, in keeping vintage motocross alive, in my opinion. That's how it's going to really stay alive for the older bikes. A lot of guys are getting into that vintage 90s scene now, which is great. More and more tracks are starting to run classes for that. But when you can get guys like Brian Villapoto out there and Jake Weimer at a big race like the Boise Inter Am, boy, a lot of people see that and they want to be a part of it. It was a great event. Scott Wallenberg, Racer X, great job there. I hope I can make it next year. And that's just how I see it. This week in motocross history is brought to you by a company I just mentioned a moment ago, Racer X, the finest motocross publication on your newsstand now and online. This week in motocross history, guess whose birthday it is today? Gary Jones, born in 1952. Gary Jones, of course, of the famous Jones brothers and Papa Don Jones. He would go on to become a top rider in the early years of American motocross, finishing as the top American in 1971 in the Inter Am Series, then winning in 1972, then winning the first of 3 AMA 250 National Motocross Championships, 72, 73, and 74, along with that Inter Am Championship. That's 4. Championship trophy for Lucas Oil at the races today. The Lucas Oil Pro Motocross Series is called the Gary Jones Cup in honor of Gary Jones. Gary, happy birthday, Gary Jones. In 1979 at the Omaha Moto Park in Nebraska, it hosted a 125 and 250 national. Bob Hurricane Hanna topped Kawasaki rider Jimmy Weinert and Suzuki's Ken Howerton for the 250 overall. The 125cc class win would go to Hurricane's teammate Brock Glover, who was working on his 3rd straight AMA 125cc national championship. Suzuki riders Mark Barnett and Flying Brian Myerscough were 2nd and 3rd that day. In 1985, over in France, your American rider, Danny Magoo Chandler, won the 500cc Grand Prix. It was his one and only win in the 1985 season in Europe. It's Magoo's only second. It was Magoo's only second race on a KTM. After rocketing to fame on that Mako, then he was on a Suzuki 125 for a while, and then finally he was a Honda factory pilot as well. Finishing behind Chandler that day on the mighty HRC team was a trio of David Thorpe, Eric Gabors, and Andre Malherbe. Think about the talent between Thorpe, Gabors, and Malherbe. I don't know how many championships there are between those guys. I think, 4, 5, 7, 6, 7. Magoo was fast that day. Rest in peace, Danny Magoo Chandler on that KTM. And that's it in motocross history for today. The announcements. Jordan, what do I have to announce tonight? Vintage Motocross Radio will be back starting the first weekend in May. Not the first weekend in May, because that's next week, and that's May 1st. I will be in Las Vegas. I will not be here. But the week after that, we will return with more interviews on Sunday at 11 a.m. And if you want to listen on Spotify, Apple Podcast Breaker, any of those things, you can listen to our podcast. You don't have to be on Facebook or on YouTube to listen to all of our interviews at Vintage Motocross Radio. The Marty and Nancy Smith Memorial is this weekend, April 24th. That begins at 10 a.m. at Shadow Mountain Church. That is 2100 Greenfield Drive, El Cajon, California. It's been almost a year, just like 4 days short of a year that we lost the great Marty Smith and his beautiful wife, Nancy. But this weekend, there will be a memorial. I will be attending on Saturday afternoon, if you'll be there. Once again, the Sunday CZ race has been canceled, but just Sunday. That the 2021 CZ National was supposed to be the 23rd, 24th, and 25th. Now there's supposed to be a deluge of rain coming down up there, 100% chance, over a half inch of rain. So Sunday's event is canceled completely. All the races will run on Saturday. Vintage, post-vintage, modern, whatever races that were for those 2 days, all of them are going to be running on Saturday. The bike show happens on Friday. So hope you can make it. Don't make any plans for Sunday because you'll be on your way home if you're going at all. Sunday is canceled. CZ World Championship race up in Marysville. Don't forget to visit my friend Brad Lackey and Lori at their Easy Up. They're going to have a tent up there. They're going to be selling shirts on Friday and Saturday. I spoke to him earlier today. He wasn't supposed to go up until tomorrow to be there for Saturday. They've gone up today to get set up early. They got some beautiful event shirts. Go see Brad and Lori Lackey for some. American Retrocross, great little organization. They're running another race down there, round 4, on June 11th at Glen, Helen on the vet track. Check out American Retrocross on Facebook. There are a lot of classes, a lot of events, great group. Scott and Debbie Wormworth are putting on another great event. It's the SoCal Vintage MX Spring Classic that happens May 1st, 2021 at Coquila Creek. And if you can't make that one on Saturday, May 1st, you could go to the one in the fall, October 16th. They'll be having another one at the Glen Helen Raceway. Debbie and Scott Wormworth, thanks for all you do for putting on all those great vintage motocross events for everyone down there in Southern California. Hot Shoe Hall of Fame. I don't know if you've heard about this, the Gene Woods Racing Experience. It's down on Fremont Street, and they are celebrating and preserving the memories of some great people involved in motorcycle racing and icons of the industry. And they've opened up a Hall of Fame. It's going to be next weekend. That's the 28th or 29th or 1st. That is down on Fremont Street. A lot of people are going to be there. There's a lot of inductees from, I understand, Kenny Roberts, Donnie Hansen, Steve Bauer. A lot of guys are in there. A lot of guys from Speedway, a lot of icons of the industry will be there. And yours truly was inducted, and I humbly accepted the induction. So I will be there in Las Vegas at the Golden Nugget, and I'll be hanging out with a lot of guys. It'll be a fun time on Saturday night. They're showing a film. You may have heard of it. You've probably watched it about 20 times already on any Sunday. They're showing that. It's the 50th anniversary. There'll be the induction. There's going to be some great bikes on display there. And I want to thank Gene Woods and everybody there at the Hot Shoe Hall of Fame for having me be a part of it. I'm looking forward to it. Vintage Motocross Q&A t-shirts are still available. T-shirts and hoodies, just $19.99 for the t-shirt. A couple of bucks more gets you a beautiful hoodie. Follow the description. Follow the link in the show description, and you can get one of these shirts while they last. They come in gray and they come in white. Vintage Motocross Q&A. Sponsorship opportunities are still available. As you can see, Glen Industries, a company I mentioned a little bit earlier, decided to come back on. They were a sponsor of ours a few months back. They saw some results from that, and as things are catching on, they decided to come back on again. So if you have a little company here on Facebook and you'd like to reach 20,000 people a week without becoming a pain in the neck to anybody, get a hold of me. I'll send you a sponsorship proposal package, something that's very affordable to you, and we'll get the word out there about your company. And don't forget, you'll be seeing it on YouTube as well. Vintage Motocross Q&A, sponsorship opportunities. Get them while we still got some room. I think that about wraps it up for tonight. I want to thank you all for joining us at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Don't forget, we will be back the second week in May with some more interviews at Vintage Motocross Radio. And don't forget, Sunday, canceled. The game is rained out up in Marysville for the Series E race, but it's still going on Friday and Saturday. What's that you say? The dog. Gino! Come on, Gino. Where are you, boy? Gino! What? Come on! Good night, everybody. Thanks for watching.